Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody. The tournament has begun. Excitement is in the air, okay? This is round one action. Voting has closed for round one, and we're gonna have some furious matchups playing out right here before your eyes in the battle for the best Blu-ray 3D lenticular cover. We have an unbelievable field of 32 teams, okay? And your voting is gonna play a major role in this tournament as promised, okay? Let's get an energy check, a vibe check, as we look at some of the comments coming in from you. From Satan Goose 6668, it's gotta be Tron Legacy. It's really and truly has to be Tron Legacies, you know? So a bunch of people right off the bat picking out who their favorites are. Tron actually is sort of a little bit of a front runner in this competition. We've got DJ Gigabit. I saw the Predators. Terrible upscaling for 3D, but that cover is dang good. There's been some early fan favorite action on that, as you can see, and I bet you're gonna be very interested to see how the Predator fares in this round one. More vibe checks coming in. We got Crocto talking about what a bracket. The competitors really brought their A games this year. Very difficult to judge who will take the win home. And yes, indeed, it is difficult. We've got a field of 32 competitors coming up right now in this program ahead. They are going to be whittled down to 16. And so look, this is how the judging is gonna go, okay? I wanted to put the voting to you. You're the main factor in this competition, okay? We're gonna have one of two things. We're either gonna have a landslide where one of the competitors received more than double, basically, of the votes as the other competitor. In those cases, done deal, easy to settle. Your votes determine who moved ahead because of the massive disparity in votes received. However, if we have a closer neck and neck competition, what we're calling it, where there's perhaps less than 3 or so votes dividing the two competitors, then I come in. Then I get to throw my expertise and my weight around in the ring a little bit and force a win, okay? So in these cases where we have neck and neck competitions, I reserve the right to force the win from the underdog. So let's get right to the action now, taking a look at the bracket as you probably have studied, as you've seen, as you've selected, and hopefully as you've voted. If you didn't get a chance to vote in this round one, don't worry, there's gonna be several more rounds coming up where you're gonna get to lay your opinion on the line, make a difference, be a part of history, okay? So let's get right to it with this first matchup, San Andreas versus Transformers: Age of Extinction. Here they are, two AAA budget tentpole spectacle Blu-ray covers facing off, and they're both doing something big and grand, but they're also doing something kind of different, okay? San Andreas has just this massive devastation scape on display, you know, and then you've got the rescue helicopter featuring the bulging Johnson inside, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, okay? Sort of protruding off the face of the cover. The helicopter is popping right off of that cover. Then you've got the towering column of a building, skyscraper, breaking apart and falling directly behind it. And then you've got the devastated landscape in the far distance, Los Angeles, under flame, plumes of smoke rising up. So it's just this big, giant, epic scene sort of encapsulated within this cover on San Andreas. And then on the other side, you've got Age of Extinction, okay? Also a really big moment. Optimus getting blasted, falling to his knees, okay? You've got some intense points of reference with sort of red hot sparking wounds across his body and his chest and his thigh. And you've sort of got an out of focus, sort of devastated hellscape in the background we know to be Chicago. So they're doing different things. Transformers: Age of Extinction sort of bringing a lot of emotion, this very emotional, heavy moment onto the action of the cover, whereas San Andreas just has this massive spectacle of an action scene that it's portraying. A couple of big budget Blu-ray covers doing battle. How did the votes come in? This is our first matchup and our first neck and neck competition. San Andreas coming in with 11 And Transformers Age of Extinction coming in with 7, separated by 4 measly votes. Oh, can Don throw his weight in for 4 votes? You know how I usually like to go for the underdog to push it over the top? But in this case, I'm not. I'm going with San Andreas, yes. I'm going with the front runner in this because I just think it's doing a lot more than what Transformers is doing. San Andreas is gonna be the one advancing out of this round 1. Next up, The Walk versus Wrath of the Titans 3D.
These two covers doing very different things, but both doing their thing very well. First up, The Walk. First of all, just the forced perspective, the unbelievable depth and scale you get from the imagery of being atop the former Twin Towers and being able to gaze down onto the city below. I mean, you even get some depth within the skyscrapers that are way below, so it's just an unbelievable perspective that you're able to capture. And then technically, The Walk is doing something really marvelous, as you can see, as the cover is shifted, the lenticular magic takes effect and we see the tightroper actually animating, crossing between the two buildings. And you've got a good 5 or 6 frames of animation here. So it's a technical achievement with this cover, and it's also just an unbelievably great display that gives you the power of 3D with that massive amount of depth that's being captured. On the other side, you've got Wrath of the Titans, okay? This is just an explosion of fury and might. A beautiful cover. You're being sprayed with floating shrapnel coming off the surface of the cover, popping off the surface. You've got this sort of 2-headed dragon breathing fire kind of coming off the surface, the glint of the weapon, the glint of the blade, okay? Then you've got this column falling to pieces and dropping away behind him. A huge amount of depth and clarity within this whole thing. Look, Wrath of the Titans has a little bit of struggle with it because I think it has a negative connotation with the movie. A lot of people mix up Clash of the Titans, released a couple years before this, of course a remake in its own right, and then this, the sequel, Wrath of the Titans. Clash of the Titans was not a great film and the 3D was notoriously bad, whereas Wrath of the Titans 3D had excellent 3D in it, and it's a really fun, non-stop, wall-to-wall, just entertaining movie, Wrath of the Titans, but it never quite got out of the shadow of its predecessor, Clash of the Titans, so I hope none of that baggage will be brought into this competition between these two because they're both doing something really special.
Okay, yeah, so an unbelievable matchup here as these two Blu-ray covers are just slugging it out here. Let's see some of the opinions shared by you, the voters, on these. More specifically, The Walk, with Friesinification coming in. Honestly, The Walk might be my number 1. I can tell because I'd never heard of the movie before seeing the cover, and yet it's still the most appealing to me. It uses the sense of depth so well. I love this comment. I love to hear it. You know, people coming into this competition, no baggage from the content of the movie themselves, falling in love with the imagery and putting their votes on the line. So Friesinification, thank you for weighing in on a lot of people's favorite in this, The Walk, just doing something so special. Mr. BS198, I heard that Philip Petit was inspired to perform his famous tightrope walk after seeing this Blu-ray cover. And of course, we've got Uber Sold at 91. This is a good one, and you agreed, you the voting public agreed, as The Walk walked away with a win on this one, 13 votes to 5. It's our first landslide victory. The Walk is advancing to the next round. Next up, Jupiter Ascending versus The Good Dinosaur.
Jupiter Ascending 3D, just a really eye-capturing image. You've got Jupiter and her boy toy, of course, floating here, sort of a lot of emotion visible on their faces. You've got just the massive form of the planet Jupiter, we assume, floating off there in the background. And then you've got this amazing sci-fi sort of landscape at their feet and the false perspective of them appearing almost as if they're giants on top of it, really working. Then the title, of course, floating up above of them. So just a really eye-capturing, clean, 3D composition. And then on the right side, you've got something totally goofy and fun. Disney coming with the Good Dinosaur. Not only is this image bright and sort of brings a smile to your face with just the levity caught within the emotion here, the characters, but you're actually getting a nice animation happening as well. As the cover is shifted, you see the cave boy growling sort of, and the opposite effect on the Good Dinosaur smiling to sort of being timid. And then you've got all this sort of pixie dust or fireflies materializing around them. Okay, so just a really charming, pretty image that has a nice couple frame animations here, but you don't need more than that. You really get the sense of what it's doing just with the 2 frames of animation. And then to go above all of that, you've got this beautiful golden border with embossed dinosaur footprints going along the edge. So both of these covers blew out the budget, and both of these covers are engaged in an absolute war right now.
2 heavyweights from different universes. Mr. BS198 chimed in, how do they get Mila to spin like that? And a lot of people are wondering the same thing, Mr. BS, after gazing upon this cover. Look at the way Mila, their star, the heroine of the film, just rotates back and forth so you can appreciate every beautiful angle of this actress in stunning 3 dimensions. It's truly amazing. How far will that get it? We're gonna find out in a second. And the Good Dinos, listen to this, some deep thoughts from Origimi. While I appreciate the more dynamic use of the effect here, my personal preference would be a more gradual transition between expressions. It's like the 2 expressions are so pleasing, and at first glance, you don't think of the fact that, wait a second, this is just a kind of abrupt 2-frame animation. But yeah, of course, it would have been a little more elegant for it to maybe have a 4, 5, 6 frame animation here, you know, but Disney decided to kind of spend some of the bulk of their money in some of the other areas, the foil border, you know, etc. Let's see how the votes came down the line. We have another landslide, everybody, in favor of the Good Dinosaur, 16 votes to 2, absolutely wiping the floor with Jupiter Ascending. So the family-friendly 2-frame animation of the Good Dinosaur, moving on to the next round. Okay, next up, Mad Max Fury Road versus Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow is doing something no other competitors in this competition are doing. It's giving you a 3 for 1. It's sort of splitting up the box cover into 3 distinct scenes and putting them on display. Blunt and Cruz in the top in some sort of loading bay, Cruz dashing across the war-torn landscape, and Cruz at the bottom with just a very intense expression on his mug. And look at that, I even got some hair. That's actual hair stuck from a label that must have been peeled off, sticking off the middle of the image. Is that gonna dent the performance of Edge of Tomorrow because it has a hair stuck to the cover? Time will tell, and you gotta wonder, you know, is the 3 for 1 giving you more for the price, or is it too much? Would it have been a more powerful statement to sort of just take that second image and expand it over the entirety of the cover? It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And on the other end, you've got Mad Max, who's sort of taking the opposite approach. It's a very simple, easy to grasp, singular image, okay? Max and his vehicle, his war beast, sort of staring out into the oblivion of the desert, and it works, and I see what it's trying to do. It's just a question of if it's gonna be able to do it well enough. The distance sort of just dithers away into this unfocused nothing, and I think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity here in the foreground. It would have been great if we could have gotten that vehicle, the tail end of that vehicle, because of the angle we're at. If it could have popped off of the surface of the cover, if they could have brought that into our space, I think it would have been a little bit more powerful. This is a pugnacious matchup between a couple of belligerent and bellicose warriors. These 2 covers, a lot of testosterone on display here as they go toe to toe.
It was so hard to determine the outcome of these 2, and they both brought it, okay, in a pretty close voting result, but not enough to make it neck and neck as Mad Max Fury Road pulls in 11, while Edge of Tomorrow, with its 3 images for 1, wasn't enough to bring it over the top. Only 6 votes, 11 to 6. Fury Road is advancing. Okay, next up, this is a big one. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance versus Star Trek Into Darkness.
What an intense matchup this is. Ghost Rider with this just very vivid and bold comic book style cover, doing a lot with the 3D, doing a lot with the colors, the beautiful reds and oranges from this kind of molten lava fire effect across the motorcycle and the chain popping off the surface of the cover in this sort of third layer before it swings back to the bike. The wheel, the flaming wheel sort of popping off towards us, and just this real beautiful kind of liquid quality to the fire on the Spirit of Vengeance just really creates this captivating effect. And on the other side, you've got Into Darkness, just an absolute spectacle as the Enterprise is being blown to smithereens. We see trails of shrapnel popping off the cover. We've got these beautiful J.J. Abrams light flares popping all over the cover, and you've got this fast moving planetscape far below the Enterprise, so you do get a lot of depth in it. It's got these pretty blues and reds kind of mixed within the image, so it's sleek, it's fast, it's dangerous. These two covers are at each other's throats, and they're gonna scrap it out till the end.
Bold, vivid imagery on both, and they're just laying it all on the line. A couple comments from you, the voters, on Ghost Rider. Mr. BS198 says, ouch, I think the flames got me. And Boonzor chiming in with emojis, a couple flames with the Ghost Rider skull. I love that, tastefully done. And a couple people chiming in on Star Trek. Uber sold at 91. The Star Trek one is pretty cool. Too bad about that movie. I can understand it's a little bit divisive. People fall on both sides of the fence, but the important thing to remember in this competition, leave all that at the door, okay? Movie content is not taken into consideration. It's only the content of the Blu-ray 3D cover. From Stoicometry Dude, this one just screams, took the extra time to really care for it. The silver lettering really sells it. Yeah, Star Trek, one of these covers that's going beyond just the lenticular to impress, you know? Some of them using foil borders. In this case, Star Trek using this sort of high density plastic, ultra reflective, and it's just real pretty to look at. Will that be enough? The voting fell down like this. Very close. Ghost Rider 11, Star Trek Into Darkness 7. So once again, separated by only 4. That qualifies, okay, as a neck and neck. I had full confidence in Star Trek. I also love Ghost Rider so much though, because the separation is 4, I'm gonna give it to you, the audience. I'm gonna let you advance Ghost Rider over Star Trek in this one, even though it hurts my heart a little. I kinda wanna go for Star Trek. If it was 3 votes or 2 votes separating them, I'd feel a little better about it, or if I just had a really strong feeling of Star Trek. But because both of these covers in my mind are so close to each other, I'm gonna allow the fact that you separated these two by 4 votes to let you say Ghost Rider. Surprising a lot of people in this competition to knock out Star Trek in round 1. Wow. Okay, this is one of the big ones. Final Destination 5 versus Predator 3D.
I mean, the power of the Predator. No one saw this coming, but boy is it powerful. As at first glance, it just seems to be the standard Arnold in the jungle, but as you shift it, you see Predator vision take over. You can almost hear the sound effect. You know what I'm talking about? And we realize we are the Predator. Looking at Arnold, activating Predator vision, we see the 3D reticle popping up in the foreground over us, the fronds on the right side, the jungle fronds. Also just an unbelievable effect as Predator vision takes over. So it's a captivating cover, and for multiple reasons, not just because it's visually stunning, also because there's a lot of subtext beneath it, putting us in the point of view of the Predator here. And on the left side, you've just got intense horror goodness as you have bone shrapnel flying from the face of this cover. Feels like it's splattering you across the face. You've got bars of rebar protruding into your eyeballs from the vacant eyeballs of this human skull. I mean, this is a horror masterpiece for a 3D styling. Both of these covers are absolute masters in their own form. This is a very contentious rivalry, and these two big guns are vying for the next round.
I think either one of these covers, honestly, could have gone the whole way. But Predator. Predator, you cannot deny at this point, has to be considered a fan favorite. The reaction from you, the audience, to Predator 3D is like nothing I've ever seen. Just look at some of these comments coming down the pipes. Dustin Willis 18, money is all on Predator. Taco comes in with Predator 3D was unexpectedly clever, but Point Break looks so nice. Anthony Zayler 5449, wow, the Predator one is amazing. Plage V, Predator really nailed it, doing something unique and specific to the movie. Yeah, just a lot of subtext on this one as we called out. Roy Nobody, Predator 3D gets my vote. That heat vision effect is so cool. It's incredibly cool. It's beyond cool. Spencer Presley on the Predator, I've got to be honest with my heart, Don, and the 3D community online. Predator 3D has such a perfect cover in theme to the movie. It does indeed, you know, and no one expected this out of one of these sort of 3D conversions, essentially. I mean, this was a 2D cover originally, and they did end up making several really great 3D conversions, including Terminator 2, including Jurassic Park 3D, okay? But Predator is the one that the cover is the thing that just really blew a lot of people out of the water. Honey Rider 09, Predator hands down. Madman Kevin, Predator gets my vote, Don. Elite Rubber Duck, this one is just so well done, truly a remarkable piece of art. And Uber Solda 91, now this is a good use of lenticular technology. And what can I say? There was no question. Final Destination 5 came in with 4 votes, and Predator 3D came in with a whopping 15 votes. Absolute landslide, okay? But look, I gotta say this. Obviously, Predator 3D has to be considered a front runner for this whole tournament after this kind of crowd reaction, but we can't walk away from this matchup without tipping our cap to Final Destination 5. I mean, look, I don't think you could say it was outclassed. It was just overwhelmed. But for them to still pull in 4 votes, we got to tip our hat to them and say, you know, walk off with your head up, and you could easily be back in a future competition. But for now, it's Predator 3D for the win. Moving on. Okay, next up, here we go. 47 Ronin versus Batman versus Superman.
You know, Batman versus Superman, just a really intriguing story it's bringing to the tournament, a story of potential massive redemption. You know, the Batman and Superman brand, such a great pairing in comics, yet it was tarnished. It was tarnished so badly by the 3D film. And so here now you have an opportunity where the cover can redeem a lot for the Batman versus Superman brand if it can go as far as it wants to go. You know, it wants to go all the way. And it has a fair claim to make, because you just have the powerful comic book masculinity on display as you see Batman and Superman squared off. You can feel the weight of the moment to the distance between them, the light flare sort of emerging from behind Batman's cape, this devastated battlescape all around them as they've been slinging blows at each other. It's just an unbelievable moment of intensity that's captured on this cover, Batman vs. Superman. 47 Ronin, on the other hand, is just this really vivid, also I'd argue sort of comic book style cover. You've got the very stylish and interesting ensemble cast on display, center frame. Then you've got this beautiful, intense, haunting sort of fiery image below with this silhouetted Ronin and a burning village. And then you've got this really beautiful chrome embossed lettering rising off the surface of the cover for 47 Ronin 3D in silver and in gold. A lot of attention to detail on 47 Ronin. We've got a prize fight on our hands.
Votes showed how much effort these both put into it, as 47 Ronin came through with 7 votes, but Batman versus Superman on the road to redemption, potential redemption at least, with 11 votes, pulling it into round 2 action. Congratulations, BVS. Okay, this next one's close to my heart. Jurassic World 3D versus Zootopia.
These are both beautiful covers. Coincidentally enough, both framed with this beautiful sort of shimmery silver border, which looks like they might have used the same cardboard on the border for each. It's a very curious coincidence for this round one matchup. But look what Jurassic World is doing that's so special. It's got animation within the frame and quite a few frames of animation, a good 6 to 8 frames, multiple frames of animation to make the wheel on the motorcycle spin, okay? And not only that, but then you're seeing the raptor darting his head left and right in the foreground, popping off the cover. You've got Chris Pratt just kind of surrounded, and you feel the depth between them, so you feel this intense pack hunter mentality that's taken over this alpha male sort of group as they race across this jungle scape on the cover. It's very pretty, and it's all sort of melded together in this really nice pale blue and silver color scheme. So it's just a pretty image on Jurassic World. And then Zootopia, just colorful, bright, fun. You've got the whole cast of characters popping off the cover in 3D, the really beautiful, bright, vibrant city far behind them with the park and the train in between. So you're really put into the world of Zootopia here immediately just by gazing at the cover, okay? And then you do have some minor animations taking place too. The zebra is actually moving its head a little bit, and all the characters on the right side feel like there's a small amount of movement in them as well if you look at it. She's rotating a bit. So there's a lot at play here on the Zootopia. It's bright, it's vivid. Zootopia also with the beautiful sort of raised up title in the center, this beautiful emerald and aqua gradient taking place. These are sort of two disparate competitors, you know, they come from different worlds, they're doing different things, and so it's interesting that they've got matched up against each other in this round one.
We did get a comment here from Ayul, who's talking about Jurassic World 3D. The wheel is the chef's kiss. It is the chef's kiss. Indeed, that animated wheel, you know, in conjunction with the depth of the pack of raptors. Was it enough to bring it over the top? Well, look at this. We've got another neck and neck finish as we have Jurassic World 3D with 11 and Zootopia with 7. You saw this one coming. Yeah, I'm putting my weight in the corner of Jurassic World 3D to push it through to the next round. Look, I love this cover so much. I promise you I'm leaving my love of the movie and the franchise out of this. The pack of raptors, the just forceful sort of energy on it. I feel real good about Jurassic World advancing to round 2. Okay, we're halfway through. Next up, Tron Legacy versus Point Break.
Point Break, just a stunning 3D image of Bodhi and crew surfing, the tips of their surfboards popping out at you. There's microscopic ocean spray dabbling across your face, it feels like, in 3 dimensions. There's the wave curling over the top of the cover and popping out from the front of the cover as well. And so what it does is it creates this really cool visual effect where the Point Break 3D logo feels like it's actually surrounded, sort of encapsulated by this plume of water and the foreground of water at the bottom of the disc cover as well. So it's just a simple, epic moment. You feel the danger of this monster surf behind them. It's very captivating. It's a piece of artwork that could really be put up on the wall and it'd be nice to gaze upon. And then Tron Legacy 3D, I mean, hey, this thing knows what it's doing and it's doing it well. Just this beautiful sort of sci-fi wonderscape. You've got multiple dudes on display, multiple virtual dudes. You've got this beam of light transcending moment and the Tron disc in the center, multiple Tron discs popping off the cover at different levels, the beautiful neon sort of imagery of the title and the neon on their suits, all just a very complimentary, wonderful sci-fi imagery that takes you right into the world of the grid immediately. Okay, you feel like you're there. Not to mention embossing along the border for Tron as well. That can't be ignored. These are a couple of well-equipped challengers in this bout.
Some of the commentary coming in for Origami, I think it was less than optimal for them to have made the recognizer so small, and especially given that they made it smaller than the other flying ship thing. That should count against them a bit. Well, you make a really fair point, There's a lot going on with the Tron cover, a lot of great things, but a lot of it is kind of small, okay? It's hard to fully appreciate it, I think, because they wanted to put so much in there. Ayul also coming in with a response to that saying, I would have thrown the motorcycles in there somehow too. They had such a striking visual with their design and trail. Yeah, kind of makes you scratch your head on what they were thinking there. It's like the discs heavily featured on the cover in multiple forms, but they're not flying at you. They're not flying away from you. They're sort of in their flat top-down view, and meanwhile, the motorcycles and their sort of liquefied contrails they leave behind are nowhere to be seen. Such a missed opportunity in a lot of ways for Tron. Will that ultimately hurt it with the voting? We're gonna see here. And Taco chiming in with Point Break. I like this one the most so far. Complex yet simple. So, how did the voting shake out for this one? Oh boy, is it gonna be neck and neck? Oh, I wish it was. I'm glad this one is not neck and neck, because I wouldn't want the pressure of having to decide this. Point Break with 11, Tron Legacy with 6. Point Break edges out Tron Legacy, an unbelievable development. Point Break is advancing to round 2 action. Next up,
Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides versus Pixels in 3D. Pirates of the Caribbean, just as a whole, this really pretty, really well-composed, sort of classical pirate imagery, it feels like. It feels like you're looking at a classic here, even though it's a fairly modern movie. And then across the bottom, you have a lot of details to appreciate. Mermaids on the rock. You've got these multiple mermaid characters, crashing surf. You've got burning pirate ships in the distance. This really detailed logo that has a little bit of animation on the skull in the center. As you can see, the skull is going back and forth on this sort of very complex designed Pirates Caribbean logo on top of the scroll. And then you've got the ensemble cast, Depp and Company, Russian Company, okay? Cruise and Company. They're all up there. You've got his dreadlocks and beaded hair kind of popping off the cover, multiple depths here. So just some top quality imagery. And then on the right side, you've got video game pandemonium, this sort of rude, brash, colorful cover with a lot of action exploding all around, okay? You've got Qbert down south, the ensemble cast in the center with their blasters, a really nice depth between all of them. You really feel like they're not on a flat surface, but they are all at sort of different depths. You got Donkey Kong up top, far in the distance, past the skyscrapers, hurling buckets. You see some of the damage in the layer behind them. This big bulbous Pac-Man in the center. You kind of feel the depth, the circular depth around the shape of his form. You've got buckets blasting into skyscrapers on the right side, all kinds of pixelized damage flying around. Then the angle of the title itself is really working in 3D. The Pixels logo, forced perspective on that. So it's just a lot of boisterous action on the right, and on the left, this sort of classical work of art. What a battle. These two are making for very interesting rivals.
We had some great commentary though for Pirates with __IG coming in. Johnny Depth. This is a wonderful Blu-ray 3D pun. I love it and I appreciate you for that. Thank you __IG. And Boonzor coming in. Love the Little Mermaid sirens, okay? Yeah, talking about some of the details visible on this really beautiful classical cover for Pirates. And then on the other side for Pixels, Anthony Zaylor 5449 came in. Terrible movie, but what a cover. Yeah, the movie questionable at best, right? But the cover is fun, it's awesome. It's got a lot of lovable characters on it. Was it enough to convince you, the voter, though? It was not. As Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, who would have thought, they're advancing with an 11-7 win over Pixels 3D. We bid adieu to Pixels and wish you good luck in the future. Next up, Minions versus Warcraft, the beginning.
Minions and Warcraft, the beginning. The minions immediately just eye-grabbing with that bold yellow and white, making up the majority of the color, and you've just got a whole bunch of bulbous yellow minions sort of dogpiling on top of each other. You just got a lot of charm and a lot of silly faces on display on the left for minions, okay? I think relying a lot on just its pedigree, its proven pedigree of minions. You've got this sort of big budget blowout, Warcraft the beginning. You've got multiple characters on display going through the center of the image. Really nice character design there. Then you've got this unbelievable warscape down below, just this epic battle scene with the red on the left and the blue lighting on the right. Really bold and beautiful. And then you've got this amazing sort of 3D effect on the border. This is something we're not seeing from any other competitors. We've seen a lot of embossed borders. We've seen some shimmered, chromed out borders, but we haven't seen borders that actually have a little 3D effect to them like that on display for Warcraft, the beginning. Again, very disparate competitors on this. These two come from totally different realms and are waging war in different realms, but they've been brought together here in round one, and oh boy, are the fireworks flying.
We've got Uber sold at 91 coming in with the minions, talking about top 10 bulbous shapes. Sort of what the minions here was relying on was just the affection, I think, and some of the legacy of the affection related to these yellow bulbous shapes that they put all over the cover. And on the other side for Warcraft, Origami talking about that battlefield at the bottom really does seem to deliver on the promise of a lenticular cover more than just about anything I've ever seen. Uber sold at 91 talking about top half just seems blurry in all angles, okay? So Uber sold questioning some of the technical kind of execution of the Warcraft cover. Mr. BS 198, fun fact, if you take the letters in Warcraft, rearrange them and change some, you get the word lenticular. I think you might be right. I'm gonna have to put that down on paper to check. Either way, I'll get to that later. How did the votes shake out in this, you ask? Minions 7, Warcraft 11. Who would have seen Warcraft the beginning rising up in any competition, let alone this one, but it's there. It's in round 2. Warcraft, congratulations. Next up, Men in Black 3 versus Moana.
Here it is, folks. No one likes to see it, but everyone does at the same time. The biggest mismatch of the competition, you could say, I mean, close to it. No doubt that Men in Black 3 is one of the dark horses, one of the long shots coming into this competition. And no doubt Moana, on the other hand, is one of the absolute biggest front runners, one of the most heavily favored in this competition. And these are the reasons why. Look, left, image, simple, clean. You see the Men in Black, suited and booted, okay? And then you've got this big sort of shimmering iridescent blue sphere behind them, emitting all this radiant light, okay? A little bit of depth between it all. You see their faces of the Men in Black slightly shifting, which adds a little bit of value. On the other hand, Moana is just this epic piece of art. Moana and company, the cast, framed in the center, full-bodied, nice depth all around them with this water, this unbelievable water that's on display, a curling wave in the distant background. You can see into the water, you can see turtles and all kinds of aquatic life. There's actually an island even further back behind the farthest layer of water, and then you've got this other layer of water curling around in the foreground, popping off the screen, just encircling the cast. So you've got an unbelievable amount of depth, a great feeling of depth on this cover. You can also see into the water in the foreground, a small little turtle. The edge, this beautiful shimmering iridescent embossed edge work on the Moana cover, going a step above, it feels like everything else in the competition here. So Men in Black with a puncher's chance. They're doing their best. They're swinging wildly here as these two desperately exchange blows.
Yeah, you could see this one coming. Moana blew it out of the water with a landslide 14-4 victory. I don't think anyone saw Men in Black 3 coming up with 4 votes in this competition, period. So you gotta kind of tip your hat to it. So Moana remaining a front runner in this, moving into round 2. Next up, Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey versus Goosebumps.
Two sort of magical, mystical covers on display here. The Hobbit, you've got Gandalf, you've got very somber tones as we're sort of in this autumn forest with these yellow and orange leaves falling all around him. But you have some beautiful depth on display, whether it's the brim of his hat rising from the front of his face or all these leaves floating at different depths through space around him, or even his bristly beard, the beautiful mesmerizing tangles of his beard that you feel like you can gaze right into. You know, The Hobbit, the movie itself, has a little bit of baggage with it. You hope none of that's gonna be brought into this competition, and you hope this cover will be judged on its own merits. But it's not easy. It's going up against Goosebumps on the other side, which is sort of doing the opposite thing. Instead of this simplified color tone, it's going for this very mixed. You've got blues, reds, orange, every color of the spectrum on display. But not just that, you sort of have this shimmery effect, this dreamlike quality to all these monster creatures that are surrounding the main cast in the center. Some nice depth with Jack Black in the main cast. Then you've got all sorts of details around, all these little hidden gnomes throughout the picture and magical sort of mystical rays of light passing around. So Goosebumps is offering just a smorgasbord of color and light, where The Hobbit is offering this very melancholic, somber atmosphere. They're both incredibly captivating. These two are duking it out.
I don't think anyone could have expected the results that came through for this matchup. I certainly didn't. It was an unbelievable landslide and decimation like we have not seen in this competition. Goosebumps nearly laid a goose egg until the very end, right before voting closed. Gotta vote in there for Goosebumps, saving it some form of dignity, but boy, oh boy, is it gonna have a long walk of shame home, because The Hobbit delivered with a 17-1 shellacking over Goosebumps, and Hobbit decisively moving forward in this competition, and I think getting a lot of people's attention in the process. Next up, Pacific Rim 3D versus Valerian.
What an unbelievable sci-fi matchup this is. Pacific Rim, just what imagery. The towering Jaeger sloshing through the ocean. You've got other Jaegers flying high up in the night sky, floating off in the distance. You've got these waves crashing in the foreground, popping off the surface of the cover. Multiple Jaegers in pursuit. It's just a really nice, unbelievable spectacle of a cover. And then on the right side, Valerian, you just have a huge number of characters, all the characters it seems like on display, monsters and creatures of all sort around the border, and this really beautiful rainbow kind of color scheme of purples and oranges and reds, just bursts of light all over the cover. It's got a lot going on, some of it kind of small. You wonder if it's going to help it or hurt it, coming at you with so many things, but some of them being, you really got to stare down into it to see it. So this is an epic matchup of sci-fi heavyweights.
So Origami coming in with Pac Rim commentary. Strong contender is definitely right. The artist really understood the assignment on this one. And Valerian, one of these dark horses now, you know, coming in with a lot to offer, but no one knows what to expect. Listen to Origami's thoughts on this one. Man, I'm impressed with what they did with the CGI characters. They seem to have actually rendered them at a variety of angles, although the ones on the left are posed in ways that make it fairly unimpactful. Also, I feel like the inconsistency in fidelity between them and the single angle live action assets with slight manipulation kind of hurts the composition. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness on this, Origami, and I tend to agree, you know, with some of these decisions they made on this cover. It's like, are you gonna go halfway? Are you gonna go all the way? Sort of feels like it was done by committee, and the committee was not all in agreement here, you know what I mean? So did that ultimately hurt Valerian in this competition? I'd say it did, as Pac Rim laid waste to Valerian with a 16-2. Completely wiped the floor with it. So Pac Rim now steps into round 2, I think, leaving a lot of these other competitors on guard, and on guard big time. Okay, this has got a couple of huge fan bases breathing down each other's neck. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles versus Godzilla.
Both of these movies, where the movies have slipped, the covers can redeem them in many cases, and these two are both sort of vying for that same kind of redemption story here, I think, as well. Look, you've got these turtles, love or hate how they look. The fact that their weapons are protruding off the cover with such great 3D effect can be seen as nothing but a good thing, okay? You've got Leo's sword, Mikey's nunchuck, Raph's sai, and Donnie's bow just popping right out at you, and then you've got this really beautiful mirror-like chrome silver lettering looming across the top of this thing. Really nice depth on this cover. Even when you pull it off at a distance, it feels like the weapons are coming right off at you. And on the other side, Godzilla 3D is this really thoughtful, amazing thing they're doing here, where you've got just this pull-back view of the massive form of Godzilla tearing through the San Francisco cityscape, laying waste. You've got the skyline in the foreground. You've got Godzilla and the plumes of smoke beyond that. You've got these flares dropping from the sky on a different layer on their own, and then just sort of smoky cloudscape in the far distance. It gives you an unbelievable sort of perspective. It feels like you're staring into almost like a snow globe, but a snow globe of mass scale. It's a really nice 3D effect they're pulling off on this one. This is a heck of a struggle we're witnessing between these two.
Okay, some of the commentary coming in on this. Monster MJ regarding TMNT. Wow, looks nice, Don, with a heart. I tend to agree, Monster. It looks quite nice. And regarding Godzilla, Jeff Easton 5078, would it be wrong that I was hoping this was the Matthew Broderick version? Well, it wouldn't be wrong, and you can imagine if that 1998-97 version of Godzilla got a 3D lenticular cover, it would probably be pretty gaudy and pretty beautiful to experience. Well, folks, we've got another neck and neck finish, one of our closest, if not the closest, neck and neck, with Godzilla with 10 and TMNT with 8. As you know, I get to push one of these over the top, and once again, I'm going with your choice, okay, everyone? I'm going with the voters. I choose Godzilla. So Godzilla, you got my vote, you got the fans' vote. You're going to round 2. Hats off. Okay, last one, but it's a big one. Star Wars The Force Awakens 3D against Gravity.
Two competitors that could easily go the distance, each in their own right, and one of them is going to be knocked out in round 1. It's cruel but true. Star Wars The Force Awakens, you've got this snowy forest, the blue lightsaber illuminating the snowflakes to different degrees, but you see them all floating in space, okay? The lightsaber itself floating in space, with the trees lit up from the light of the lightsaber in the distance, just the mood, the vibes that put you in this scene from the movie and the scene from the cover, the snowy landscape, the gold foil lettering, and then you can't ignore the collector's edition framing on this Star Wars, this sort of soft matte textured material they use, extremely classy. And then Gravity 3D, no shortage of class on its side, as it's captivating just this epic scale moment high above the earth. You see the astronauts and their tethers coiling off into the distance. You see the speed of the moment, the depth, not just between astronauts and shrapnel, but surface of the planet, and this burst of sunlight coming over the horizon in the distance. It's an unbelievable spectacle. It spins your stomach. It makes you feel that you're feeling the gravity of Earth pulling you in. Only 3D could do this. And for these two beautiful covers, only one can remain.
Okay, so we've saved something exciting for last, something I would say rather controversial for last. Boy, oh boy, Star Wars The Force Awakens 3D got 7 votes, while Gravity got 11. This brings it into the realm of a neck and neck, as you know. However, this time, I'm gonna do something different than I've done in the rest of the competition. Although you, the voters, have voted for Gravity slightly above Star Wars The Force Awakens, I am so smitten with Star Wars The Force Awakens. I'm gonna upend things and I'm gonna push the underdog over the top, throw my weight in behind Star Wars, and get it to the second round. I apologize to George Clooney, Sandra Bullock, and all of the Gravity 3D team. Okay, so that's it, everybody. We have the round 2 matchups locked into place. The pristine 16, we're calling it, and this is what they are. San Andreas versus The Walk. The Good Dinosaur versus Mad Max Fury Road. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance versus Predator 3D. Batman versus Superman versus Jurassic World 3D. Point Break versus Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Warcraft: The Beginning versus Moana. Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey versus Pacific Rim 3D. And Godzilla versus Star Wars The Force Awakens 3D. Wow, so just an intriguing bracket, okay, everyone? A reminder to get your votes in here in the comments section, okay, for this round 2 matchups. Choose who you like, think about this. You know a lot more about these competitors now, okay? I mean, these are unbelievable matchups we have in round 2. Every single one of them is gonna be just out of control. I mean, the couple that really grabbed my attention right off the bat, Batman vs. Superman, BVS versus Jurassic World. What the heck direction is that gonna go? We've got Point Break versus Pirates. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then you've got something like Warcraft, the sort of underdog story that's getting a lot of momentum, I think, going up against the ultimate front runner from the beginning, maybe Moana. Then you've got Hobbit, put the whole competition on notice, okay? Going up against Pac Rim, who had one of the most devastating victories in the first round. So just heavyweight after heavyweight after heavyweight now, as things are gonna really start cooking here in round 2, okay? Get your votes in. Round 2 action coming down the pipe.